folks. Welcome to This Week in History with Mike and Will. I am Mike.
And I am Will.
And I am Mike. What we do is every week is we find a thing that happened in history.
Mm-hmm.
Will goes and researches that.
Yep.
And then he's got 1 hour to explain that thing to me.
Mm-hmm. And we've checked this hourglass. It lasts an hour.
It is an hour.
It is an hour.
We counted the
I was
grains
asked.
of sand myself.
One at a time. It took much longer than
Not an hour to count them. Yeah. This week we are discussing
the
birth.
Oh, you say it.
Do I say it?
Yeah, you say it.
Do I normally say it?
Yeah, I think you usually
okay.
say it.
Drop my pencil.
Yep.
We're going to discuss the birth of Joan of Arc.
Si.
Joan d'Arc.
Jean d'Arc.
She was born on January 6th, 1412. I know a little bit about her.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if we find out more.
Yeah.
All right. So, Will, you got 1 hour to explain
An
what
hour.
you know about Joan of Arc. Ready?
I'm ready, sir. Okay, so first of all, the date of her birth is questionable.
Okay.
We know she was born.
Mm-hmm.
We know she is real. And the closest date I could find for it was January 6th.
Okay.
That's the only actual date I was given.
We'll take it.
Because she was a peasant, they didn't keep specific records.
Sure.
However, her parents were actually well-off peasants.
Oh.
So her parents,
Not
Jacques...
those lower class peasants.
Not these lower class peasants. Her father, Jacques d'Arc. Of Arc.
D'Arc.
Dark. His name was also written as Dart and Day. So...
Okay.
And her mother was Isabelle Romay. Now, the theory is maybe she went on a pilgrimage to Rome, hence Romay, Rome.
Okay.
Or maybe that was just her last name. She came from a nicer family, had something, a relative of her was in the church, was kind of a bigger deal. Not like a bishop, or she would have married into nobility, but she had family in the church.
Okay.
And combined, they had 50 acres of land and a stone house. And that's where they raised their family. And actually, we have a picture of the house right
Stone house.
there.
Look at that. That's
And
nice.
it's actually pretty nice. To this day, it's still standing. And it is now a museum for Jean. And this was in Domremy. Now it's called Domremy La Pucelle. La Pucelle means the maiden.
Okay.
It's named after, they changed it because of her.
Oh.
So she was born there. Her dad was kind of a mover and shaker in the town. He was the head of the local militia.
Ooh.
And so, in times of crisis, he would call up basically everybody who could fight. And they'd go with pitchforks. And, I mean, it really wasn't usually a lot of weaponry at this time. They didn't have. But,
Farmers.
you might have like a retired soldier.
Okay.
Or somebody who fought in the wars. And then he was also like a local official who he was referred to as a dean, which means he might have gone like to other towns nearby to like talk about trade or just to kind of catch the news on everything.
A mover and shaker.
He's a bit of a mover and a shaker.
Yeah.
Isabel, from what I can find, is kind of a force of nature.
Oh.
She was tough. She was smart. She wanted the best for her children. They had 5 of them. The only one who's really famous is Jean.
Oh.
Of course.
Sorry, those other 4.
Sorry, other dark kids, but she's the best D'Arc there is. I hate to tell you. I mean, I would not mind playing second fiddle too.
I guess. Well, couldn't one of you kids have martyred yourselves as well?
Yeah, exactly. And the martyring is a thing. Now this is at a time. This is during the 100 Years' War. That started in 1337 and lasted until 1453. So the entirety of our story takes place in the middle of that.
Yes. 2 things which bug me about the 100 Years' War is 1, what do they call it during the 100 Years' War? And 2, why is it not 100 years long?
Exactly. It's the 100+ years. It's actually like 112. Or no, more than that. It's 116 years.
Yeah, it's not 100, but they also didn't call it that during
It's because they had lulls in it, but at the time they just said the war with France or the war with England, depending on which side you were. They just the war. It
is important with war. Branding.
Yes.
Branding is important.
So it was the post. Once they figured out the total, they're like, oh yeah, this is. They didn't decide at the beginning. This will be 100 Years' War. Let's just go. Let's see how long we can make this puppy last. And
they did.
Nobody stopped.
All right.
So this is the setting.
Right.
So Jacques, her father, was born into this war.
Born into war.
He was born into war. So is Isabel. They were both born into this. So that's all they've known.
Born into this.
There have been moments of peace, but all the fighting in the 100 Years' War, it takes place in France. where
Okay.
they live.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, there you go.
and they live in like northern France, which is where the English run things,
Oh.
which means their lands were conquered and taken.
Okay.
At this time, you have so much chaos. So Jean was born in 1412. It is nuts right now in France. So we've got England has invaded and is taking chunks of land.
Okay.
The French are trying their best, but their current king, Charles VI, is a psychopath. He has psychotic episodes where he like attacks his own friends with a sword, starts fires. He's so completely nuts, and that's what he's famous for. And it's so bad that his wife has to basically run the kingdom along with his brother Louis and his uncles.
Oh. Okay.
For like his entire youth, his uncles run things. So he's not a good king.
They don't replace him somehow? It seems like a thing to do.
No, they just run it until he runs his course, and then his son will take over. His son, Charles, also Charles, but we'll for the rest of this call him the Dauphin. The term Dauphin means dolphin. This is because there was a coat of arms for a royal for a wealthy family that had dolphins on it, and they basically gave a king a lot of money to such an extent, like, and I think land, and they were like, so since we're giving this to you, what we want in return is we would like you to call the heir apparent to all future titles of being the king the Dauphin. Much like you have the Prince of Wales in England, and in other countries across the globe, they have like different titles. I think in Portugal, it's like the Prince of Brazil, which they don't own anymore, but that would still be the royal title.
Right.
So the French king's like, for
Sure.
boatload of money and some land, dolphin.
Sure,
Yep,
dolphin,
he's the
why not?
dolphin. He's the dolphin. Sure thing, guys. And the
Well,
guy
yeah.
who was originally called the Dauphin was apparently pretty well regarded. He was a soldier
And a fan of dolphins?
and he apparently liked
Are
dolphins.
dolphins native to France?
Well, it's coastal. There's
Are
dolphins on
dolphins-
the coast.
I
You
don't
can
know.
find dolphins. I don't know. I
Okay.
mean, not. I wouldn't think like Florida level of dolphins, but I assume so because it used to be a delicacy. People would eat dolphin.
Ooh.
Nowadays, that's considered like so taboo.
Yeah, because they're cute and smart.
Well, they're smarter than most humans. That's not saying a lot. Some of you people are.
You know who you are.
You know who you are. You know, they don't. They might not.
If you are currently ensnarled in a tuna net, then
Yeah, you're dumber
then
than a
we are
dolphin.
talking to you.
We are talking to you, and I'm not sure how, because how are they watching
I
this
don't
while
know.
it's wrapped up in a tuna net? So yeah, Charles VI is nuts. Countering Charles VI at this time in England, they have Henry V, who's one of the greatest warrior kings of English history in a long line of warrior kings.
Yeah.
This is the guy who's he's made famous in Shakespeare's plays. The Once More into the Breach, my friends, and all that jazz. So he was like
He said all that jazz, too?
all that
Wow.
jazz and all that jazz.
Wow.
And then they made Chicago based on his exploits.
Well, I didn't even know they had jazz back
See,
then.
that's where it was invented.
The things you learn on This Week in History.
You're welcome.
Jazz was invented in England in the 1400s.
On top of that, in Burgundy, which is always been a problem spot for France because they're very independently minded, they're led by a fellow whose name is John the Fearless.
Ooh.
So just imagine how tough this dude is. He has no fear. He does
There you go.
not. He doesn't care. He fights kings. He doesn't care.
That's for the French side?
This is a Burgundian, so he's
Burgundian.
on neither side.
Oh.
He's his own dude.
I was going to say, John isn't really...
He's his own guy. So yeah, at this point in time, France is basically parceled between like France, England, and chunks of Burgundy.
Okay.
So it's very, very chaotic. And Burgundy switches sides multiple times. At first, Burgundy is sided with France.
Yeah.
They're like nominally loyal to them.
Theoretically, we could have a country named Burgundy now.
Yeah, we could have. If they actually, John the Fearless, if he'd lived longer, he might have actually forged his own kingdom permanently. That's kind of where he was going.
Spoilers.
Spoilers. And actually, I do
don't
want to
think he
do an
does.
entire episode on John the Fearless because he's a fascinating character. He's so cool. They made an entire campaign in the Age of Empires video game series starring John the Fearless.
Okay.
Normally reserved for fellows like Genghis Khan.
All right.
So that's pretty cool.
Okay.
So you've got a nutcase king,
Nutcase.
a fearless guy, and Henry V.
There we go. That's
so
exciting.
the French people are not in a good. They're going to lose. They're not
Yes.
doing well. In 1415, Henry V takes advantage of the chaos that's going on in France because the troubles with Burgundy at first are just kind of like not so bad, but in 1407 it becomes an outright civil war.
Okay.
So on top of the 100 Years' War, they have the Civil War. It's called the Armagnac-Burgundian War. The Armagnacs were, there was a nobleman named Armagnac, and he was the adopted father of a guy whose brother was assassinated by John the Fearless. So this guy has a beef with John the Fearless,
Okay.
and so everybody who basically doesn't like the Burgundians, they're called the Armagnacs. They're French. They're all French, and they don't like the Burgundians.
Got it.
So it's this rivalry. Attached to this rivalry, the young Dauphin gets involved with these guys. He's friends with this nobleman. The noble is I think it's I can't remember. I think it's Louis of Orleans, but Louis might have been the one who got killed. And then
Louis.
it might be Jean d'Orléans who
Okay.
got. It's one of the two. It's Jean or Louis, which is pretty much everybody in this story is Jean or Louis, and
Perfect.
some Charles. There's a lot of them. There were like 5 names. You went with what you knew.
Yeah. All right.
So anyway, the stuff between Burgundy and France is just very bad. It's open warfare now. They're seizing towns back and forth. They're having battles, and Charles is just insane and out of it. So it's all these other guys fighting.
Great.
Henry storms in with just a small army, and at the Battle of
Just a
Agincourt,
small army?
he's only got a few thousand men,
Okay.
which compared to everybody else is
Sure.
tiny.
Yeah.
He shows up with a bunch of archers, longbowmen, and a few relatively 100 knights, and they fight the Battle of Agincourt, and it's a slaughter. They destroy the French army. Like, it's really bad.
Is that the one in the play where he does the
That's the
big
one in the
speech?
play, yep, where he's talking about... I think he actually does the big speech before a siege, and then they have the battle right after that.
Okay.
But he has another speech then.
Yeah, sure. He's
That's
always,
the Band of Brothers speech,
in the
I think.
play. He's always talking.
He's always talking. That guy never shuts up long enough to actually kill anybody. It's amazing he got anything done. He does such a good job of this that the French are like, well, this is not good.
How you say not good?
Should we ask the king to surrender?
Oh, you asked the king. I'm not talking to the
No,
king.
you asked the king.
Nah.
I asked him last time.
I'm not talking to the king.
You asked him last time. He threw poop at me.
Oh, no.
That
Merde.
merde, he threw it right at my face. You do it.
Okay, I'll go tell the king.
Okay, go tell the king.
How's it go?
Yeah!
Oh, no, it's not good.
Well, they tell the king, and what the king does is he signs the Treaty of Troyes, which Troyes.
If it's
Yeah.
French, ignore most
Yeah,
consonants.
ignore most of it. Just make it sound fancy.
A tweety à toi.
And wait. In the treaty,
Yes.
Charles disinherits his son and makes Henry the future king of France.
Just randomly, or
And then marries Henry to his daughter. So he's like, France is no longer French, it's now English.
Okay.
Nobody in France likes this.
No.
I mean, the Burgundians are all about it, because by now the Burgundians like, anything that makes France mad, we're for.
Sure.
And the French aristocracy are like, wait, what? Now,
this-
what?
yeah,
We're all English?
was this
We've
a-
been fighting forever.
Was this a plan that?
This was kind of a
or did
Charles,
Charles
is
just kinda do
crazy.
the thing?
This is a Charles is crazy
Charles just did a
maneuver.
thing. Yeah.
I think he
I do
was.
what I want.
He was basically facing annihilation from Henry. He was worried that Henry could just make it worse. Although Henry's army was so badly, like, they were all sick
Yeah.
and beat up from this massive battle.
Charles
but,
doesn't know
but
that.
Charles doesn't really know that, and Charles is insane. And Charles also doesn't really have a great counter because his army's gone. It was obliterated. Like, the whole thing is just
Hard
like
to negotiate.
thousands and thousands of knights were killed or captured. It was horrible.
Okay.
And so he's like, I would have nowhere to fight you anyway, so you want to be my son?
Oh,
That's kind of
what a switch.
Yep. And Henry's like, yeah, sure.
Sure. Okay.
And again, in Shakespeare's play, there's a wonderful meeting between Henry and his future wife,
Oh, yeah.
and they
Oh,
get
yeah.
on like a
That scene's in French.
yeah, it is.
It's pretty wild.
Way.
I was always impressed by that. So
Mhm.
Shakespeare's writing Shakespeare in French.
Yep. Great stuff.
Mon Dieu.
Mon Dieu. Is it actually in French in the play or just in the movie?
It's written
In the
play.
play,
Or at least
okay.
the script I saw. I
Okay,
could be
then
wrong.
you'd know better than
Shakespeare experts, you correct us.
me. We know at least one.
There we go. She will correct us.
She will correct us. I'm mostly familiar with the battle up until
Sure.
the talking scene, and then I don't.
Yeah.
That's where my brain just stops caring as much because I think I watched it when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So it's like, why are they talking?
Oh, have you not watched it again?
I watched it a few years ago,
Uh-huh.
and they did it in French, but I wasn't sure if that was Kenneth Branagh being Kenneth Branagh. Like, oh yes, we
Yeah,
shall
yeah.
make it French.
Yeah, he's usually a pretty
But
purist
he's
about this.
He's
sort of
purist,
thing.
yeah. So that makes sense. But I haven't looked at the play
Sure.
physically since then. So the Battle of Agincourt goes horribly wrong, and then they have the treaty,
Which goes horribly wrong.
which goes horribly wrong for France. The Dauphin is livid about this.
Ugh.
So the Dauphin, yeah, he's up on his tail in his tank, furious with
Yep.
his little tiny
No
crown.
more jumping through hoops for him.
He's got a little tiny crown,
Mhm,
and they try to take it from him, and he's like, no.
Careful with
He's-
that crown around your
He's
blowhole.
dealing with his own nonsense.
Sure.
So right after this horrible thing happens, he's in Paris, and the Burgundians capture the city,
Oh, no.
and he barely escapes.
Oh, no.
But the king's still in Paris,
Okay.
but he's nuts, so nobody really cares. So the Burgundians captured, and John the Fearless, being fearless,
Yes.
says, "I shall be the protector of the King of France," which basically means he's the boss.
Yes, and you're staying inside and
Yep.
not
And-
coming
yeah,
out.
which is actually for the best for
Sure.
Charles at this point. Charles should not be allowed like out of a room
Yeah, yeah.
without like he's got to have like minders with him, like big guys who can pick him up
Okay.
and carry him away when he's bad. Because he's violently irrational. It's bad. It's really sad because he bounces between these moments of pure lucidity and he's like a good ruler, and then and it's usually very violent.
Interesting.
So it's very difficult on the Dauphin to deal with all this. He doesn't want to like depose his dad. It's his dad, but at the same time, it's like, look what has happened to France. This is chaos. This is not good. So he's driven out of Paris, and he's like, well, since Paris has been taken and my dad's a prisoner, I'm making myself the regent until my dad is freed. Despite this whole treaty that he's made with Henry, which is dumb.
Which is a dumb
Because
treaty.
Henry's not doing anything to help, and I'm going to go make my own court in the south, in a city called Bourges.
Okay.
Now, this gets him the mocking title of the King of Bourges, because that's really all he owns. They mock that he doesn't own
John the
Paris.
Fearless? They were picking on?
No, the Dauphin.
Oh, Devon.
Yeah, because John the Fearless has Paris.
Yeah.
He has Reims. Reims is, well, he doesn't have Reims. The English have Reims. Reims is where the kings are crowned. So it's like the sacred site. You got to
okay.
go there to get crowned. It'd be like if the English didn't have Westminster Abbey,
Yeah.
or if America didn't have Washington, D.C.
Got
They'd
it.
be like, where are you going to rule from? Nothing.
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 Right.
So he goes, he's like,
Bourges.
fine, then I'm going to take I'm going to have my own capital. Meh. And he
Great.
wanders off and he leaves. So John the Fearless is like, I've got pretty much everything I want, but I'm really tired of this divided France thing. This is nonsense.
True.
So let's calm things down and we'll have a meeting. So he schedules a meeting with the Dauphin, and they meet on a bridge, and one of the Dauphin's bodyguards murders John the Fearless.
Oh, no. That was not part
And
of
the
the plan.
Dauphin did not have this plan. This was not a planned thing, but the Dauphin is tied to it now, and he's like, oh my god, no. So the war reignites, and John the Fearless, the Burgundians are even more hateful towards the French now,
So it was
because
just like
their
one.
beloved leader got murdered.
Was it just one guy saw his shot?
Basically, yeah. He saw his opportunity, and he's like, this is for the king, this is for the Dauphin! Ha! And he murdered him.
Nice job,
Doesn't seem
jerk.
like it was Charles's plan to do that.
Right. Well,
If it was, he executed it really. He's either the worst planner ever.
crazy like a fox.
Yeah, he might have had his daddy's problems, or he just didn't. I mean, this is the era of rash knights just kind of doing whatever they want.
Yeah.
We had Henry II, and one of his knights went and murdered Becket. So we knights are trained to murder people, and he's just like, "Oh, I'll kill you! Ha! You kill us! You murder! End the war!"
Can't train them on to murder and give them swords and expect them not to murder.
Exactly. You just it's like if you put Charles Manson in front of somebody, it's don't kill this guy.
Yeah.
We're going over here.
Yeah. Charles Manson never killed
Actually, he
anyone.
didn't kill anybody. He got a lot of people to do it for him. So it'd be like if you got Jeffrey Dahmer.
There we go.
There we go.
Don't eat this guy.
Don't eat this guy. And he's like, delicious. Ed Gein, don't dig up this corpse. Here's a shovel.
All right, we are almost halfway through, and we haven't mentioned Joan yet.
We did. We mentioned that she was born.
She's a baby.
So this is what Joan is born into.
Okay.
So it's total chaos. The French no longer own Paris. The French don't own Reims. And Orléans is besieged by English and Burgundians.
Oh.
Orléans is one of the other major cities of France. It's a major, like it's in the midst of 2 riverways, I think, or like it's almost like a 3-point of riverways. And it's a great site of trade in the midst of France. So it's very important. It's rich. It has a huge merchant class. It's a very important city. So all of this is happening when Joan is growing up.
Yes.
When she's a kid, she starts having dreams. Like, not like how we have dreams typically, but like she starts seeing Michael the Archangel in her dreams. And he's the, saint of soldiers. He's he's the angel. And she would cry that she didn't get to go with the angels when their dream was. She'd wake up and she was crying, and her parents were like, "What's wrong?" She's like, "Well, the angels came to me and they didn't take me with."
I believe he's the one that cast Satan out of heaven.
Yes, he was the
leader of the
the
angel army
lead
there.
of the. Yes, he's the top soldier in heaven. Is
I
the.
only know that because my name is Michael.
There you go. Got to know who you're named for.
Yeah.
And yeah, so Michael. And then she also had Saints Margaret and Catherine, who were both strong women who were martyred.
Okay.
Most saints are martyred. Not Michael the
Sorry.
Archangel. Hard to get an angel.
You got to be dead already.
You got to be dead already. Although he was at a time where
whatever.
that predates that. Yeah. I don't. It's not important where they come from. It's
This is
important
not-
that these are the visions she's having.
Yes.
Meanwhile, her father's having like counter visions.
Oh.
Where it's her going off to war and dying horribly.
Okay.
So he's like, I don't want you to go to war. And she's like, I have to. I'm being told that I have to do this. I have to tell the king, well, the Dauphin, because the king is crazy. I have to tell the Dauphin to do better and to go off, and we got to fight the English and drive them. And her dad's like, you are 10. You stop.
If only they had TV or radio.
Yeah, if I had a hobby. So what his plan is, he'll just marry her off. That'll shut her up. And
It seems to be a lot of people's
Yep.
plans.
She refuses
Okay.
She's not gonna do it.
Because she's 10.
because she's a child, and also she's willful, and she's just not gonna.
Sure.
In 1422, so when she's 10, King Henry dies. So Henry's claim to France is supposed to go to his son.
Okay.
His son's a baby,
No.
just a baby.
Little wee babe. A wee.
So this is a chance for the French to reclaim things, and then Charles VI dies like
Oh.
2 weeks later.
Ooh.
So the Dauphin's like, I'm the king of France!
Finally.
Kind of. Because I don't have the capital,
Yep.
and I can't get crowned at Reims, because
But
I don't own it, but
I win by default because everyone else is dead,
but
right?
everyone else
Yeah.
is dead. And then the Burgundians like, yeah, but King of England's still over in England. He's like, two!
It's a baby.
I'm not... No, it's my nephew. I'm not being... He's not my king. He's my sister's baby. You shut up. Meh.
Who's in charge of the Burgundians at this time?
So John's, I think, son, who's, I think, Philip the Good.
Okay. Well, someone who apparently doesn't factor in much.
He does.
Oh, okay.
He's called the Good, but he's a bit of a bastard, in my opinion.
Okay. Well, carry on.
Carrying on.
Tell me more.
I will.
Thank you.
I will. So in 1428, so John's 16 now, and she's like, this is a problem, Dad. So she just basically starts to ignore her father. The more he tells her she can't do something, the more she fights against it. And then her visions are starting to get more intense.
Ooh.
Where she's like, she can feel like she's supposed to go and do this. She feels like God is telling her, go and talk to the king and encourage him, because she sees Charles the Dauphin as the king. That's the king.
Okay.
So she goes to a local lord. His name is Robert de Baudricourt. I call him Baudricourt.
Okay.
He's a Baudricourt.
All right.
It's real.
Roger Bodycourt.
Roger Baudricourt. He's the head of the local garrison. So I don't know if he's a full lord, but he's a knight. And she's like, I need to go to Chinon, which is Chinon, Chinon. Chinon is like a fortress that the Dauphin stays at.
Nice.
And she's like, I need to go there, and I need to meet with the Dauphin. I have to tell him. God has a message for him. And he's like, I'm not sending any soldiers out there. There's English and Burgundians all over here. No, you shut up, stay in your village. So she leaves, and then her village gets attacked by the Burgundians to the point where the village is burned down. But not her house, because it's the only one made of stone.
She learned a lesson from those
Three
pigs.
little pigs. They were all French.
There we go.
Built out of stone, no one can burn your house down.
Trois poissons.
Trois poissons, oui.
Yeah, that's 3 fish.
Three fish? Yeah, I don't.
I forget how you say it.
Trois dauphins.
Poison?
No.
I think it starts with a P. Like porcine.
Trois book.
I'll look
Trois
it up later.
porky.
I think it's like porcine.
Like porcine.
Porcine.
Yeah, porcine.
Whatever.
Porcelain.
Either way,
Trois porcelain. No, it's at the toilet.
they learned to build
So
their
they
house
learned,
out of stone.
but they also had enough money that they could build a nice house. It's thought that maybe that was the dowry, Isabel's dowry to Jacques when they got married.
Oh, okay.
He got a nice house.
Nice.
They got more land.
And
Happy
they
times.
have the only house left in the village.
They got the only house left because everybody in the village just runs away because the Burgundians ride in, start burning everything down, causing chaos, and they run to a nearby town, and then they come back after the Burgundians leave, and they're like, everything's on fire and gone, and the Arcs are like, ha ha, our house is still standing. Let me light my cigarette in the embers of your home.
No. How rude.
That is life. C'est la vie.
C'est la vie.
So she goes back again and she's like, see, we need to do something about this. She goes to the head of the garrison. We gotta go. I gotta go. God wants me to do this. And he says, no. But my village burned. Don't care. See, that's exactly why I need all my soldiers to stay in one spot.
This argument works both ways.
Yeah, exactly. But while she's there, she meets 2 knights, Jean de Metz and Bertrand de Poligny. It doesn't matter. Poligny. It's Poulengy. Poligny. These guys become like kind of her like lifelong bodyguards. They're very, very loyal to her. They probably might. It's not maybe Jean de Metz loved her.
Sure.
But nothing ever came of it because she was a virgin her whole life. That's her whole thing. She was
That's
the
her thing?
That's her thing. That and saving France. Save France, stay a virgin. Bam. That's how you become a legend, folks.
That's how you become a legend.
Save a country, stay a virgin.
Yeah.
That's the only way staying a virgin is really fun. Is if you go down as a legend of saving countries. Otherwise,
I guess.
I'd rather not stay a virgin, and then
the country will be fine.
the country will be fine.
I don't think that factored. I'm going to say that didn't factor into her
I don't
ability.
think so. I think it was just happened to be that she was also a virgin because honestly, she's too busy.
Too busy.
She's too busy getting stuff done to get busy.
Got it.
There we go. So she goes back. So she meets these 2 knights, and then is still turned away. She goes back a 3rd time in February of that year. So she went in January, and then she went in February. So she just keeps going back and forth. Like, I'm just imagining her just walking that way, like, all nice. You know, like, please, I would like some help to get to talk to the king. No big deal, no pressure. But I think God is telling me a message to fight the English. And he's like, go away.
Okay, yeah.
No. And then she's like, okay, so they burned my village to the ground, so I'm a little angry, and I would very much like to talk to the king.
Okay.
And maybe we could do that.
How old is she at this point?
She is 16 years old.
Okay, so she's like a little Greta Thunberg.
Yep.
I'm very upset about my village.
Yep, I'm very upset. You have robbed me of my childhood.
This war is destroying us.
Yes, yep. And apparently she's such a good speaker, though, that these 2 knights are like, yeah, what she said.
There we go.
We should help her. And I'm thinking maybe they talked to the head of the garrison, because the third time she comes back, and this time I just picture she just storms up like, look, I tried to be nice before, but you always ignore me and you tell me to go home, so I'm not going to take no. Okay. And that's it. Wait, did you say okay? Oh.
Yeah.
I take back my rage.
There we go.
So she's sent to Chinon to meet Charles. Now, during this time, during the intermission between, not being sent to go talk to the king,
Yes.
and this guy constantly shooting her down, a nearby duke is like, hey, I'm sick. Can you come and cure me? So she went and met with him to talk to him, and all she did was reprimand him for cheating on his wife, which is awesome. This peasant girl's just like, I can't cure you, but stop cheating, you big slap. And then she left.
All right.
But I think maybe that might have stirred this guy. Like, this girl's got some stones.
Sure.
She's brave.
Yes.
She went right up to this dude and was like, no, behave yourself. Stop being a barbarian. You're supposed to be a man of God. Get out of here. So she goes to Chinon, and at first, Charles doesn't really want to meet her. He's like, she's just some crazy peasant girl. People think she's an assassin. She's from the Burgundian-controlled area. She could be trying to kill him, get close. She could be some kind of seductress. Then there's the people who are like, she hears voices, so it's the devil.
Sure.
And then there's also the branch of people who are like, I don't know, man. We have tried everything. Talk to her.
Okay.
He has a private meeting with her. And apparently he's so blown away by what she has to say and who she is. He's like, I believe her. So he sends her to meet a bunch of priests, theologians, scholars.
Yeah.
I think there are women involved in this too.
Oh.
So heads of different orders. And it's basically like a "Are you a good person?" meeting.
Okay.
And they all come back with the same answer, that she's great. They're like, we're not sure whether or not she's actually hearing the voice of God, because she never claims to hear the voice of God. She claims to be given messages by saints.
Yeah.
Which is a big deal in France. Also, there's prophecies at this time that say a maid will come out of nowhere and save France.
Here I am,
and
baby.
there have been for some time. There's a one that says a woman would bring France to its knees, but a maiden would save it. She's a maiden.
Sure.
I don't know who the woman was who brought France to its knees.
Okay.
I think it's because of children being born to English kings and French kings and all this, and
Something. I'm sure they could blame somebody.
They always can blame a woman for this.
Yeah.
This is the height
Some
of
woman caused this problem.
Exactly. It's not us just hitting each other with swords. Some woman did this.
What is going on?
Why do the women always insist on destroying our empires?
If we could crack this one, we'll figure it out.
Figure it out someday. So she's apparently very convincing, and she just comes across to all these people as nice, a good person.
Yeah.
So they say, oh yeah, she seems legit. I guess follow your instincts. Whatever you want to do, you're the Dauphin. Do what you want. And he ends up commissioning a suit of armor for her, full plate armor.
Ooh.
Now, what's interesting is when she goes to meet the Dauphin, she goes dressed as a man, which is unheard of at the time. And it's so that it's not 6 guys and a girl walking across the middle of nowhere. That can look a little fishy. And also, if anybody hears about this rumor that there's this maiden going to meet the king, we're going to kill her.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. So it's a matter of safety and also practicality. It's harder to walk overland in big skirts.
Oh, yeah.
Because that was the dress of the time.
Okay.
So she, from the rest of her life, dresses like a man.
Got it. It's easier that way.
Easier that way.
Sure.
And now she's got full plate armor, which is extremely expensive.
Yeah.
That's worth more than her whole town was before it got burned down.
Oh, boy. She is a good talker.
Yes. He commissions a banner that she has designed by herself.
Nice.
She doesn't draw it out because she doesn't know how to write.
Okay.
So she dictates all her letters, which she does frequently. They have a lot of letters saved up of hers where it was messages to the Dauphin. She sends a lot of letters to the English, basically saying, stop being poopy heads and go home.
Stop being so English to us.
Yeah. Can you stop burning our country? Please?
Thank you.
Please?
Merci.
Okay.
Okay.
I guess we'll fight then. Mm-hmm. Charles then decides, all right, so Orléans, this major city, is under siege. My cousin, Dunois, Jean de Dunois, the bastard, they call him. The
Oh,
bastard
Child
of
Bastard.
Orleans. Not because he was a bad guy, but it was actually like a term of respect in that a bastard was like he was somehow related to royalty. Like he was connected.
Unofficially?
He was so close to basically being royalty
Okay.
that it's like he's basically like a bastard child.
This son of a bitch.
So he was
Yeah.
like proud of that. They would refer to him as the bastard Dunois, and he was
Okay.
like, "Yep, I'm the
Yep,
bastard.
sure
I
thing.
don't care." But this guy's like a warrior. He's been fighting nonstop. He's just trying to protect Orleans. Every time that they try to send supplies to relieve the siege, it gets intercepted and people get killed. So really, all he wants to do is get food to his people. He's asking for help. Charles doesn't really have any way of helping him, so he sends Jeanne.
All right.
Jeanne d'Arc. We'll send the
You
maid
got
of
armor
Orleans.
now, kid?
We'll
Go.
send her. We'll send her. At the very least, she'll inspire people,
Sure.
and she, pragmatically might die a martyr. So that'll
Good.
make everybody mad, and maybe they'll fight harder.
Oh, good.
Best case scenario,
Good plan.
she's super inspirational and frees the city. Worst
Yes.
case scenario, we're out of suit of armor.
Oh, boy. And a Joan.
Nah, out of suit of armor.
Oh, man.
They don't care about the person
Yikes.
yet.
Right.
So they send her to Orleans, and she gets there, and the people have her. The rumors are spreading.
Yeah.
And Orleans is so big, and the English army is not big enough to encircle it completely. So there's ways into the city. It's just kind of they have the city surrounded with little camps and small forts.
Okay.
And then their main fortress is a place called the Tourelle, which was like this major bastion that guarded a bridge going into this city. So the English hold this thing. This thing is just a rock. It is very hard to crack. They can't get in it.
Okay.
But the French broke down the bridge leading to the city, so the English can't get in, the French can't get in, that kind of a thing.
Sure.
It's just kind of an impasse. But the English theory is we starve them out, we have skirmishes, so it's constant like battles like between a few hundred people bouncing around outside of the city. But meanwhile, the poor people inside the city are hungry, they're miserable, and their life is just war.
Yeah.
They have to see this all day, every day. Their loved ones are going out and dying. It's awful.
Every day.
So they get word that the maid is coming. The maiden is coming. La Poussette.
Boy.
And she shows up with wagon loads of food,
Oh.
which isn't enough to completely alleviate the pain, but it's a little bit.
Yeah,
Right?
it's
It's
a
enough.
gesture.
It helps.
I thought that counts.
A few extra troops, and they're inspired by her presence. There's
Hey.
a 16-year-old girl, peasant, comes out of nowhere, hears the voices of the angels, and she is going to deliver us. She is not a soldier.
Nope.
Even though they give her a sword, she actually asked for a sword specifically that she knew was beneath the altar of a church. It's not known how she knew that, but she said, "There's a sword underneath the altar. Give me that." And they're like, "Okay." That's all I could find on it.
Really? Okay.
It's really interesting. I have to read more and more about this
Okay.
because that one fascinated me. I was like, "How did she know there was a sword under there? Is it like a local legend that they knew there was a sword, she's
Or
just
was
like,
it just one of
there
the
is
little
a
things?
sword
Yeah.
under there?" Or was it like an Oprah thing? Everybody look under your altar. Swords for
Sure,
everybody.
yeah,
you
probably that.
Yeah. Or she was like, hey, Jean, you know how you are a knight and you have a sword? Go put it under the altar. I'm going to do a cool trick. Watch this. He's like,
Yeah.
okay, I'll go put the sword in it. Like, for all we know, it was a clever scheme.
Sure.
But it's very interesting. So she goes to Orleans, and she's inspiring these people. And Dunois is like, I am so tired from fighting and killing and doing all this stuff. Welcome to Orleans. But you just sit there and be quiet, because we're planning this.
Okay. Thanks,
So
kid.
they don't bring her into any of the war councils.
Yeah.
She's not a soldier.
No, she's
They're
just
soldiers.
she is a decoration.
She is a decoration. She is a prop.
Yeah.
That's how they see it.
Yeah.
She's just a girl.
I bet she doesn't see it that
She
way.
does not see it that way.
Yeah.
She does not. But because she's charming and likable and very passionate about France, and she must not be like an obnoxious Bible thumper. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Because those people can have the best intentions, but if they're just hammering that on,
Yeah.
if you're poor and you're desperate and you're struggling and it's war and death, yeah, you might be like, yeah, Jesus is there, and then you accept your fate. But you're not gonna be fired up yeah. She's a good speaker and
Okay.
she's charming. So the soldiers slowly start to like her and believe in her. There is a battle where Dunois and his troops head out. They go to attack this small fort, and they're driven back. And John finds out late that they did that. So she arms up and rides out to meet her allies, and they're all running away, and she charges the fortress by herself.
Oh.
And everyone's like, oh, wait, we gotta go get her, we gotta go get her. And they go charging off after her. They take the fortress, and they're like, yeah, we did it. And she's like, next. And they're like, no, we need to consolidate. She says, next, there's another one of these forts. Let's go take that one. And they're like,
Look, I know you're real excited, kid.
Let's
It's
do
really
it. And she just basically leaves.
Oh,
and all
no.
the soldiers follow her. So all the leaders like, oh, gee, we're going to die.
Oh, boy.
Screw it. And they all follow her. And their army starts to build up because now that the soldiers don't have to worry about that little fortress,
Yeah.
everybody who's focused on that can help out.
Right.
So she goes to the next little fortress and conquers that one too. And then they start freeing up all these little villages on their side of the river, and they go to the Tyrell, and she's like, we take this. And they're like, but we just conquered this up. Doesn't matter. Go. Let's do this. She starts to climb a ladder and gets shot between the collarbone and the throat.
Ooh.
She's like at the ladder, looks up. Shit. Ow.
Yikes.
Wah. So she takes a knee.
At least.
They get her out of the fight, and then she basically rips the air out and charges back into the fray
Yee.
after a very short rest, and leads the French to victory at the Tyrell, which was this like impossible fortress to crack. It was very difficult to get in. They didn't think they could do that. They didn't think they had the manpower. And she's like, nope, we do this. Let's go in. Follow me.
Don't need
And
the
they-
manpower when you have the little girl
They have
power.
a little girl power, exactly. So she charges her way in, and she's like climbing up ladders and stuff and going into the fray. And I'm not sure if she's actually like killing anybody because she's always carrying her banner with her. Everywhere she goes, she's got this banner. So you can't climb a ladder with the banner and a sword at the same
Right.
time. You could do one or the other.
Yeah. How old is she now?
She's still 16.
16, right.
She's just a babby. Well, she might be 17 now.
Yeah.
Still,
Just 17.
that's a babby. That's
Sure.
I mean, that's fighting age for everybody. That's at that time she's a middle-aged woman. In the Middle Ages, at 17, you're like,
Yeah.
all right, I own the farm and I've had 6 kids and like that kind of a
Right,
thing, right? So she's leading these guys, and they're freaking out. They're so the French are just losing their minds about how inspirational this woman
It
is.
is inspirational.
Like, this is amazing. She's just charging off. She got shot. She got hurt with us. She's bleeding with us. She's charging in with us. We're inspired, and she doesn't know anything about war, and yet she knows where to be to cause the greatest effect.
Yeah.
So she seems to have like a sixth sense, or at least like just kind of a natural inclination for war. She's
Or
good
just
at it.
lucky.
Or she's super lucky. The problem is, luck happens occasionally, not consistently.
Oh.
She's consistently doing the right thing. It's just thing after thing after thing. Now, after they take the Tyrell, they start splitting apart the rest of the English, and the English are like, okay, stop. In 7 days after it's a week after she arrives in Orleans, she broke the siege.
Nice.
The English have been fighting here for forever, it seems, and they're just like, okay, we've had enough. She's crazy. We don't like her. We're going home.
Bye.
Toodles. I mean, they don't go home.
Right.
But they go away from Orleans. We're
Okay.
going back to Paris then.
We'll be back. Bye. Okay.
Don't like her at all.
No.
Bloody nuts. Crazy little woman with a bloody stick and a scarf on it. Tried to kill us. Don't like it. Go home. So they all leave,
Yes.
and they take Orleans. Happy days.
Hey,
Awesome.
all right.
She's not done.
Oh.
She goes to Charles, the Dauphin, and she says, you need to stop being a Dauphin and be a king.
Oh. You must be a king.
You will be a king.
You will be the king.
We need to take Reims.
That's where we get.
And he's like,
kings.
but it's way up there,
Yes.
past Paris.
Oui.
We would have to besiege like every city along the Loire River to do that. She says, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Here we go.
We take them all,
Right.
one after the other, after the other, after the other, and they'll fall like if you took a bunch of little black square rectangle things
Yeah.
and hit them, and they fell and they hit all the other ones.
Are you saying they didn't have dominoes
I
at
don't.
this time?
They didn't
Okay.
have dominoes. I don't. Not in France. I don't think. And
Probably didn't
also-
have Papa John's either.
Yeah, Papa John's, and they definitely didn't have Pizza Hut.
There we go.
None of the 3 major branches.
For sure.
And all of them terrible to play dominoes with because Pizza's floppy.
All right.
Anyway, she's very convincing.
Yeah, apparently.
She's and after this victory in Orleans, they start calling her the Maid of Orleans. That's her nickname. So it's that's like her full title is Jeanne d'Arc La Pucelle d'Orléans. But they just call her like La Pucelle. She actually never calls herself Joan of Arc.
Oh,
ever. Like she might not have ever heard the words Jeanne d'Arc put together in her lifetime, because she was called other things. But mostly she went by the Maiden or the Maid. That was what she talked about herself as.
Okay.
And then when she signed her name, she's Jean. That was all she could. She eventually learned how to sign her name, which I thought was adorable.
Yes.
And she spelled it wrong. It's like Jehenne, which
Maybe
is not
that's how
quite
she
right.
spells
But
it.
that's how she spelled how you want. When I become like a child savior of a kingdom, then I can judge. Yeah,
Yes,
that's fair. I'll just shut up. Shutting up now. So
You can't spell your own name wrong.
yeah.
Everyone else is wrong. Then.
Everyone else is wrong. Correct. So the Loire campaign kicks off in May, I think. June of 1429. So all of the stuff in Orleans, that started in April, late April, like April 29th to like May 7th or 8th. So it was either a 7-day campaign or a 9-day. It was really short.
Right.
But she just stormed in, kicked everybody in the face, and then now she's back in Chinon to meet with the Dauphin, and she's like, all right, we're going back north.
Moving on. All right.
So she's bouncing all over the place, and the Dauphin's like, this girl's crazy, but I love it. So they get an army together, and they just start marching, and one after the other, the towns fall. They just, one puts up resistance, and they're like, we'll fight them. And it does not go well for them, but they don't. And the problem, though, that Jean runs into is the Armagnacs are mad. They're furious, and they want revenge against the Burgundians and the English. They don't take prisoners.
Oh.
They tend to slaughter them. Occasionally, they'll keep like wealthy prisoners for ransom, but they'll just kill people. So she, like, after battles is trying to go through and like make her people stop killing people, and it's like that doesn't quite register with them. They're like,
This is what we do.
Yeah, they're like, we've been fighting this war for like 100 years. There's a film about this. It's called The Messenger. It was by Luc Besson, who made The Fifth Element.
Okay.
Interesting filmmaker. He does some weird things at the end of the movie, but they have Mila Jovovich play Joan of Arc, and it's a very the battle sequences are actually really impressive. For the most part, they use a lot of the right tech, a lot of the right tactics. And there's an interesting scene where it's after they take the Tourelle, and she's like mortified by all the death. And there's this guy who's bringing a prisoner, and he's going to bash his teeth out because he wants his teeth. Because his teeth suck, so he wants his teeth. He's going to make his own fake teeth, I guess. Right. And she's like, no, what are you doing? You can't kill him. And he's like, but he's got nice teeth. And she's like, that's no reason to kill him. He's like, yeah, but his teeth are better than mine. And she's like, I don't even want to speak to you. So she like pays the guy off and takes the prisoner. And then one of her guards is like, are you going to do that for everybody? Because there's dozens of
lots
guys
of teeth.
A lot of people want teeth.
Mm-hmm.
And by this point, she has surrounded herself with some of the scariest guys in France. She has Gilles de Rais, little known guy that we talked about once before, became possibly the world's first serial killer.
Oh, sure.
He's one of like her top supporters. He's the Marshal of France. He's one of the greatest warriors of his time. La Hire is a monster. He was a captain of the French who's famous just for being a beast in combat. He was not like a big landed noble. All he's called is La Hire, which is like the hire. I forget what the hire is. Because it's not like the hireling. Somebody who knows French, tell me what that means.
Okay.
But he was just a beast of a fighter, and he was fanatically loyal to Jeanne, and he just loved to kill Englishmen. That was like his favorite thing to do.
Sure, sounds fun.
Yeah, sounds like a great time.
No,
I mean, if that's your thing.
I guess.
But yes, he was very good at it. Then she has the Duc d'Alençon, who is a cousin of the Dauphin, and then she has Dunois following her. And these people are like, this girl's awesome. She's going to kill everybody that's English and retake France. So she tries to temper like some of the bloodlust with a righteousness. Like she's not a pacifist. She knows
Sure.
war is violent.
Yeah.
But she's like, yeah, we treat with the enemy before we have a battle to make them surrender. And if they don't want to surrender, then we fight it out.
Okay.
So I think the movies tend to make her more of a pacifist. Like she doesn't want to fight, but she's like, no, she's a realist. Like,
Okay. Sure.
Otherwise, nobody would follow her. Nobody would have time for that. They'd be like, oh my God, this girl just constantly talking about how we can't be violent and we're soldiers and we're killers.
Right.
And we're trying to retake our country.
Yeah.
This has no place here. Go back home. Go back to your little, I don't know,
Stone house.
whatever you do with your fancy stone house. So she's, and it's constantly described throughout it that she is in the thick of the fighting anytime there's a battle. She's in there, waving her banner. She's on her horse.
Yeah.
And she's just very valiantly involved in this fight. She's this little tiny 16-year-old
There you go.
girl.
Small target.
Yep. Small target, dodgy, good armor.
Sure.
Well, during one of the attacks on one of the towns, someone throws a rock, like
Like a big
from
rock.
top of the castle wall,
Yeah.
and it splits her helmet in half.
Ooh.
So it landed on her head. So
Yikes.
she, again, takes the knee, gets back up, like throws off the helmet. She's like, is that the best you can do? And goes right back at it.
Ooh. Yikes.
So she's just very brave, just nonstop fighting. And I just love it because it's like, I don't think she actually killed anyone. I think she just stood there, which is, to me, that's way braver.
Yeah.
Like if I'm there and I'm, a fighting person and I've got a weapon, then I can make less guys trying to kill me.
Yeah.
She has to rely on everybody around her to keep her safe and her faith to protect her. That's all she's got. And apparently it's enough.
She's got a lot of it.
She's got a lot. They fight all the way towards Reims, and there is the Battle of... the battle comes after. Yep. They bust into Reims, basically. Like, they get there,
Bust the
and
Reims.
they're like, we're not going to let you in. And, well, did you see the army?
Yeah.
Because it's kind of you and what army? This one.
This one. Have you heard of us?
Have you heard of a little maiden?
Look how
named Joan?
shiny she is in her armor.
So they kind of, come on in.
Okay.
So they walk in on the 16th, and then on the 17th, they're in Reims, and they have the coronation ceremony.
Oh.
Where they have they have the sacred oil of Clovis, which anoints all the kings of France,
Yeah.
and these,
So was
I think
Dauphin following along this whole time?
yeah, the Dauphin was with her
Okay.
this time. So now he's got his household
Was
guards.
he
he's got
fighting
his army.
too?
Probably not.
Probably not. You're doing good. Carry on.
And he's
I'll
barely
be right behind you.
He's only a few years older than Jean,
Sure.
but he's still like, you can't have the head of state get decapitated,
Sure.
especially after his nutty cuckoo father.
Yeah.
But he might have fought, but it doesn't. There weren't a lot of opportunities for battle on this march.
Okay.
There was like the one little siege, and she's like, "I got this." Rock.
Okay, good.
And he's like, "Oh, okay."
You're doing great. Go
Typically
on.
at this time, most kings sat on their horse and watched what was going
Sure.
on.
That's
Like,
the
go
best
there.
seats.
What's interesting is Jean knew where to put culverins, primitive cannon.
Hmm.
She like would help position artillery. She knew like where to put like trebuchets. She had like a really good idea of how this stuff should function, even though she did not have any training with this stuff, and it actually worked really well. Not always perfectly, but in these early stages of her campaigns.
Sure.
So immediately after the consecration of Reims, on the 18th of June, 1429, is the Battle of Patay, and it was a one-sided ass-kicking. The French lost like 100 guys, and the English lost like 2,000 guys. It was very, very one-sided. And apparently at the beginning of there wasn't this battle, it was the battle before this, where it was kind of a non-battle. There was a non-battle at one point. I didn't even write it down. Jean rides out and tries to get them to chase her,
Come on,
to
boys.
lead them to fight.
Yeah.
Like she wants the English. She's like, bring it. She goes out by herself to try to like trigger the English to just, I'm going to kill her so dead.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that time.
Yeah.
She shows up at the end of the Battle of Patay, so she was kind of sad she didn't get to actually be involved in the fight at that one because it was such a major victory. But had she not been like, go to Reims, take the army with you, and then she was like, and then no, go kick their faces in. I'm coming.
Do it.
Don't do it yet. I'm not there. And she's like galloping out to go meet the army from the city because I think it was outside of the city some ways away, and she was galloping basically to meet the army. So she shows up at the end of the battle.
Hey,
Keep going! Chase him down! She's galloping after him. Again, one-sided, butt kicking.
Yeah.
And she's there. Good job, France. These wins are huge. But now they're like, okay, we've taken back Reims. We've taken back Orleans. We have all this security. Now we got to take Paris.
Yeah,
That's the next step.
Got to get the monopoly.
Paris does not go well.
Oh, no.
Jeanne is leading an army that is not... So by this point, she's given a lot more command. She's given a lot more authority. But they don't have a huge war chest to work with. People are kind of burnt out from the campaign season of going...
We can't just keep doing this all the time, Joan.
Yep. The Armagnacs have been fighting since forever to beat the Burgundians.
Yep.
So everybody's just kind of exhausted. So
I mean, it is the 100 Years' War, but hey, come on,
so, kid. Charles leads the army, nominally. He gets together 10,000 men to fight against like 3,000 men who are protecting a massive city. 10,000 men against a massive city is not good odds.
Right.
Because one person on a wall is the equivalent of like 20 people.
Yeah. It's hard to get it.
Just throw rocks. Jeanne gets shot in the leg with a crossbow, which means it punches right through her armor, and she's just like, ow. But she was put in charge of the lead assault. So she takes her guys and just charges the gatehouse.
Okay.
It does not go well. 500 men die and 1,000 are wounded. So that's, for those playing the home game, 1,500 out of 1,000. That's 15% of the army gone.
Oops.
And Joan's leg hurt.
They blame her for it.
Oh, come on. You can't.
Nope, that's what they do. They
One
blame,
mistake.
Yep. Well, they blame her for it, even though she's not the commander. She was told to do it, and so she did it.
Oh, okay.
But this was one of the battles where she positioned the culverins. So we take that hill, which they did, and then we put the cannon there, and they can shoot and cover our advance, which is really smart. But then they don't really utilize it, and also the Burgundians build this propaganda that they're going to burn the city down. So the city is like anti-French, even though they're French.
Okay.
They're like, oh no, if they take the city, they'll kill us all. Even though that is not the plan, and that has historically not been anything that Jeanne has done or anybody else has done. And also, why would you burn the capital? You want the capital.
If we can't have it, no one can have it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, if you have it, then anybody can. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, if we can't have it, nobody can have it. But we'd have it.
Yeah.
Shut up.
It's hard to argue against good propaganda.
Yes. So they're not able to crack the walls, and Charles gives up after one day and a failed assault. It's just like, well, let's go. He doesn't have much of a stomach for war, even though
It doesn't sound like it.
Yeah, he's not.
Come on, one defeat.
He's not my favorite king. Well, especially since he puts all the blame on Jeanne.
Yeah, well.
This causes her to lose favor in the court. Now they're saying, well, we don't think she's divinely inspired anymore. God has abandoned her because he didn't deliver Paris. It's really sucky because one of the things that when she was challenged and they were like, well, they claim you can perform a miracle or whatever. What miracle you're going to perform? She said, send me to Orleans, you'll see the miracle. Oh. And the miracle was freeing the city. So it was kind of that self-fulfilling we'll make this happen.
Right.
I'm not going to magic us, but I'm going to show you guys that we can do it.
Yeah.
So if little old me can go there. So they basically tried to disband the cult of personality. I think part of it too might have been that Charles was like, well, I'm the king now, and I don't want people following her more than they're following me.
Yeah.
In some versions of it, they try to make it that his mother, who was the power behind the throne for his father, the nutcase, she might have been meddling. But I think it was a combination of factors.
Sure.
That, we're going to take control of all this, and this isn't working, and also we had a setback, so maybe you're not going to win. What they wind up doing is they get her out of the court, And she goes to Burgundy to start a war up there. If she just went off on her own,
Yeah.
this is an act of treason.
Mm.
So there's no feasible way like that she would do that. She would not betray her king.
Yeah.
She's very loyal to Charles. She's very hurt and feels betrayed by him that he's not outfitting her with an army again or sending her to where she feels she needs to be. In fact, after Paris, he separates her from Alençon, who's like this duke that was really, really liked her and liked fighting with her, and they were a good team. So she's like kind of isolated. Gilles de Ray's not there. She is, it's kind of said that she's sent north to deal with Burgundy on her own, and she'll either win or she'll die.
Okay. But she's sent. Yeah.
Yes. So she begins the Compiègne. Compiègne is the area. Compiègne campaign. It's tricky. It's a campaign in Compiègne. And initially there's some successes. She fights the Burgundians. She beats them in a few smaller engagements. She takes some towns. Things are going well. And then the Burgundians rally, and they have some English support. And when she sallies out of a city, sallying out is to get a gang of people to charge out of a city that's besieged, she's captured. They close the gates behind her, and she's caught.
Oh.
When she's jailed by the Burgundians, she tries an escape, and then they put her in a tower.
Okay.
Which she leaps out of.
Ooh.
70 feet.
Yikes.
Lands in a dry moat. She was hoping it was water, but she's
Oops.
like, I'm not going to be caught. Ah! They're like, she's crazy, and we can't stop her. So they kind of shuffle her around from prison to prison, castle to castle. Just stop.
Yeah.
And they sell her to the English.
Oh, no.
And apparently they gave the French, I think it's kind of a legend, but it might be accurate. I'd have to look more to see if there are letters about this. But it was the Burgundians basically let the English and the French bid over her.
Ooh, gross.
And the French did not bid high at all. They're like, we'll give you $5.
$5. Hey, if she's a chosen one, that should be enough.
Exactly. So this was in 1430. I just love that she jumped out a window. She's like, I'm not going to be caught. And she just is injured. So she's been shot in the leg. She's been shot in the neck. She's had a rock thrown off a castle wall that cracked her helmet, didn't kill her. And then she leaps off a 70-foot wall and lives. So she is tough as nails.
Yeah, I'd say she was chosen.
She's chosen. They sell her to England, though. And in January of 1431, she's put on trial. The English accuse her of heresy for, get this, dressing like a man.
Yeah.
That's like one of the initial charges.
Number one sins.
Then they say that she's doing the work of the devil. She's hearing the voice of the devil.
Yeah.
She's put in front of like 130 clergymen, I think. Okay. 8 of them are English. The rest are French, but they're all pro-English or Burgundian.
Okay.
So this is in Rouen, and Rouen is owned by the English. Yep. So this is an English court. This is basically a sham trial.
Yeah.
She defends herself valiantly. So most of the stuff we know about her is actually transcript from this trial.
Okay.
Which starts in January, and it goes on into the spring. And she beats all these guys at their game. She answers every question honestly and modestly. Her family was ennobled when she became famous. So they're like, well, isn't it true that you did this so your family get rich? And she said, I didn't want my family to get anything to do with this. This was, I don't want them to get anything they don't deserve. So if they didn't go off and do the thing, they shouldn't get the thing for it. Like, I didn't do this to make my family wealthy. Everything they try to do, she just kind of counters, and she's super modest and chill about everything. But they still are like, but you dressed like a guy, and you rode around, and you fought, you did unwomanly things, and we hate you.
By the way, also, we hate you.
Most importantly, we hate you.
Okay.
On the 30th, she's convicted, and I don't spoil her. And on the 30th of May, 1431, she's executed by being burned at the stake. Now, we're out of time, but
we are out of time.
I found out a really amazing nugget of information that I did not know until I was researching this, and I've been a fan of hers for years.
Yep.
Her mother is a force of freaking nature. So, in the summer of 1431, her father died. It's thought that he died of a broken heart.
Oh.
He was dead because this is his baby girl.
Yeah.
And she died not nicely. She died by being burned publicly and called every kind of name imaginable. She's the devil's whore, all this awful stuff. Mom becomes a widow, and she moves to Orleans, the city that owes its everything to Jean.
Yeah.
And she goes up to the mayor, and she's like, do you know who my daughter is?
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. The things she did, and you're going to let them get away with this? And she, like, stirs up a fuss. They give her a pension so that she can live in the city.
Okay.
Then she challenges the ruling of the court that her daughter was a heretic.
Oh.
In 1435, she begins her campaign.
We're going to set the record straight.
We're setting this straight. She goes to the Pope and basically wags her finger in his face until he rescinds the order. So this is the most fascinating thing. This woman who is a widow, she's lost her child, fights the church to have her baby girl exonerated before the court, to such a point that she is honored in France and eventually became sainted. So now Joan of Arc is a saint. She's one of the patron saints of France.
Yeah.
This wasn't until the 1900s, but the fact that this woman who died at age 80, so her mother was like 70 while she's fighting for this, I think, or
somewhere
she's
in
an
there.
older woman,
Yeah.
and she's fighting for all this stuff, waggling her finger in the face of kings and dukes and barons fearlessly because she felt my baby girl died for a great cause.
Yeah.
She's going to get the respect she deserves. And I think that is absolutely amazing. The most fantastic part of this story is this mother just fighting for her kid.
Good on you, Mom.
Good job, Mom. So that's the life and tragic demise of Joan of Arc, sped through pretty fast and
There we
in
go.
almost an hour.
Well, there we go. Well,
I had to
very,
talk about Isabel. She's so awesome.
very exciting. I learned stuff I didn't know. And boy, howdy, isn't that what this show is all about?
That's what it's for, folks.
All right. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the history of Joan of Arc.
Yep.
Tune in to us next week. Actually, before we do that, make sure you like and subscribe.
Like
If
and
you have any
subscribe.
comments,
Tell your friends. So I'm not going to brag, but I have more than 100 friends on Facebook.
Sure, yeah.
And I notice our subscribers list is still
less than
not
100.
that.
Yeah.
Not that.
Yeah.
And you've got like 100 friends on Facebook.
At least, yeah.
I'm disappointed in our friends.
We'll get there. We are getting more every day.
We are.
And we've been getting also more Patreons as well. Patreons will
That's
help
great.
for
Yeah.
this show.
And we get comments of people telling us about weapons and armor and pronunciation stuff. It's wonderful. Love the feedback.
Continue to learn, and we're looking forward to more.
And
Yes?
I should, by next week, have a little surprise about the show.
Ooh, okay. A surprise.
I'm going to tell Mike about it, but I'm not telling you guys.
I don't even know about it.
It's
All
a
right.
surprise.
Well, either way, tune in next week. Next week we'll be discussing Alexander Hamilton. The birth of Alexander Hamilton, which is January 11th.
You'll understand why I have a chip on my shoulder about this guy.
1757. And Will apparently
Not a huge fan.
doesn't like musicals or something. I don't know. All right, so we'll tune in next week. Thank you, Will.
You're welcome.
We'll
Mike.
see ya.
Bye, guys.
Bye.